neither the subtle body, neither the spiritual body they can touch, because the spiritual body is completely spiritual. So anything of this material world, subtle or gross, cannot touch the spiritual body. And what they can touch? They can only touch the subtle body. So in case of Ajamila, the Yamduta has completely tied up his subtle body. But then the Vishnutas came and completely pierced the subtle, that Pasha, Yama Pasha. They're shocked, first time in the history of their duty, that some personalities are so effulgent, who are so powerful, they are coming and obstructing their um, occupation. So immediately they went to Yamraj. And Yamraj, it's like a feast for him. It's like a Sunday feast because he's in Yamaloka, and nobody asks any question regarding Bhagavad Dharma. And first time his messengers of Yamaraj, Yamdutas are asking him, what about Vaikuntha Loka, about Lord Vishnu? It's like a feast for Lord, for Yamraj. And then Yamraj starts telling that anybody who's practicing bhakti, never go very close to them, because they are always protected by the uh, Gada of the Lord, Shankha Chakra, Gada Padma. The Gada and Chakra is meant for protection of the devotees, and Padma and Shankha is for creating auspiciousness for the devotees. So here is a time when people travel from one place to another place, there's so much concern for the loved ones. But when people leave body, it's like it's such a very horrifying thing for a non-devotee. So in a small book of Krishna, the Reservoir of Pleasure, Prabhupada writes the second chapter, he is comparing the mundane rasa and the bhakti rasa. The what inspires the people of this world? What inspires people of this world to continue the relationship? They get a mellow, they get a rasa that's called as mundane rasa. And what are the characteristics of that rasa? The characteristics of that rasa is it is chapala sukha. What is chapala sukha? It is flickery. It is shop down. It is like water on the drop of a lotus leaf. That is what Prabhupada writes in the introduction to Nectar of Devotion. And then it is bhoga 5 days people work in a software company, then on Saturday, Sunday, they want to go to some other hill station, or they want to go to some Disneyland or a film city. And in that way, they want to go and try to chill. And again, they come and, 5 days, they become very hot. Again, they want to chill, become hot, chill, become hot. But they don't want to stay there also forever. They don't want to go and stay they just Saturday, Sunday for 2 days, they are chilling. That's it. They think it is too much. We want again the heat of the project, heat of the work. So that is called as these are two symptoms of the mundane rasa. What are the mundane rasa? Bhoga tyaga means they try to bhog, and then after working hard in a company, then they want to reject that part, and then they want to bhog, they want to rest for 2 days. Again, once they are done with the rest, they are frustrated. Again, they want to go and work in the company. So, and second thing is chapala. Although they get so much of happiness, material happiness, it is flickering. Why? Because at the end of life, one loses everything. It's like a sand. You are collecting all the wealth, all the name, fame. It's like a sand inside your hand. And one cannot hold sand for a long time because sand slips from the hand, it falls off. Similarly, our life, the body, the health, the opulences, the Ishwarya, the beauty, everything slips away from this body. So, this is what Mr. Death is. Mr. Death takes everything from the materialist, and that mundane rasa is characterized by bhoga and tyaga, and then chapala sukha. On the other hand, the the symptom of bhakti rasa is it continues after death, after death. It doesn't end with the body. Therefore, it is called as amrit. It is a mellow relation in connection with the Lord, who is so sweet. Adaram maduram, gamanam maduram. His flute is so beautiful. His singing is beautiful. His walking is beautiful. His glance is beautiful. The cows are beautiful. The whole spiritual world is beautiful. His associates are beautiful. Everything related to the Lord is beautiful. Therefore, it's called as, like Vallabhajari sings, it's Maduram, Madhurashtakam. And this is second feature. The relish, the mellow is eternal, and it is so relishable. It's so beautiful. Third thing is it infatuates us, or it stimulates our love for Krishna. So when this devotee is offering this prayer, he is being stimulated in ecstasy by practicing bhakti, and therefore is offering this prayer. Let this temporary body be burned to ashes. Let the air of life be merged to the totality of the air. So, why somebody would like to burn his body? Nobody sane person in this world will not like to burn his body. But the amount of ecstasy in bhakti, the amount of happiness of bhakti ecstasy and the bhakti bhav is so much that the existence of the body is completely, it's like very, very completely very less or tuchya. And therefore, he's praying here, let this temporary body be burned to ashes, let the air of the life be merged with the totality of air. Oh my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. Why selling? Because he wants to serve. Like Kapil Dev says to, Lord Kapila says to Dehuti, that Salokya Sarishti Samipya Sarupya Ekatvam Apita. Salokya, same planet, Salokya Sarishti, that is same opulences. Sarupya, same form, Samipya, near proximity with the Lord. And what to speak of the last one, Sayujya, that is Ekatvam, Apyuta. All these five in the district, the last one is the Ekatvam, merging into the Brahman. That forget merging in Brahman, devotees don't like merging in Brahman. What to speak of Salokya, Sarishta, Samipya, Sarupya? That remaining four kinds of liberation also devotees don't desire, pure devotees of this caliber of mantra 16 and 7, mantra 17 and mantra 18. If Vinayam Sevanam Jana, Salokya Sarishte Samipya Sarupya Ekatvam Pita, Diyamanam na Grinanti. If Lord awards them this kind of liberation, what is the condition? Why they reject it? Condition is Diyamanam na Grinanti Vinayat Sevanam Jana. If there is no service, there is no opportunity to serve, the devotee don't accept it. The pure devotee doesn't accept this kind of liberation. That means the goal of our life is not to run away from the material world, so that we just want to be chilled like a bhoktak person, but we want to serve. Mother Yashoda is serving, she's in ecstasy with anxiety to take care of Krishna. Lord Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the anxieties which I take for preaching Krishna consciousness or for services for the Lord is my devotional ecstasies. So Prabhupada was in Vrindavan at the age of 69. He left Vrindavan. It's a destination for any old person or any old Vaishnava for leaving his body. But at the moment when people reach the destination of Vrindavan to leave their body, Prabhupada is leaving Vrindavan and going to west in Jalduta to a place where people are eating cows, people are eating all animals, and there is no sanity. There is no person who can who is worth follow who is worth giving Krishna consciousness from material point of view. But what Prabhupada is saying, Prabhupada has full faith in the omnipotency of the Lord. What is the omnipotency of the Lord? Lord's name, Lord's form, Lord's pastimes, Lord's dham. Prabhupada is carrying that in his heart as a pure devotee. And anything you touch with the Lord, that becomes Krishnaized. And then omnipotency also indicates that when Lord comes with us in the material world, Lord is untouched by matter. So with this understanding, Prabhupada took Bhagavatam. With this understanding, when Prabhupada took holy name, and with this understanding, when Prabhupada took Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Panch Tattva, Srila Prabhupada took that, then he transformed the whole America, the whole Western world. Namaste Saraswati Devi Pash Gaurvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. So with that, Prabhupada is writing these purports just before going to America. These purports are written not when ISKCON was formed. These purports were written when Prabhupada started writing back to God magazines. That time no ISKCON was there, nothing was there. He was just publishing it as a page, 4-page article. All these mantras were published as a 4-page article in each back to God magazine. That was compiled as a Ishopanishad by BBT over a period of time. So therefore, this is before Prabhupada opened ISKCON. And what kind of purpose he's pouring into it? He's pouring his devotional ecstasies. So what lesson Prabhupada brings from this amazing bhava? This is a shloka of bhava, ecstasy. But Prabhupada is coming back to the basics. You are not the body, you are spirit soul. So material body is a foreign dress and is formless. It takes a shape according to the form of the soul. As there's hand gloves, there's cricket gloves, there's football gloves. Different people wear different gloves for protection, for playing, for facilitating that game. Similarly, this body has been facilitated by the material nature according to our desires. So based on desires discussing, based on every living entity or every human being has different desires. Therefore, the way they dress, the way they have fashionate attire, it's based on their thought process. Somebody in Satvaguna, he will have a Sattvic attire. Somebody is in Rajoguna, he'll have a passionate attire. Somebody is in Tamoguna, he'll be like a very, very lousy and crazy attire. But Prabhupada is mentioning that based on our desire, we accept different bodies. This too we covered last week. So one can reach the highest perfectional state in this human form of life. So although we have different desires, based on the desire we have got a material body, but we can make a best use of bad bargain in this human form of life, and we can actually perfect our life and actually serve Lord with pure devotion and get up my and regain our original swarupa in the spiritual world. How? By aligning with the plan of the Lord and by developing the sense of service. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavyam na bhaves graham indriye sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam eva spuritada. So Krishna is completely spiritual, but with the material senses we cannot understand him. But by service, what happens is our material senses becomes completely spiritualized because Lord is omnipotent. So Lord can be in touch with us through His holy name. Lord can be in touch with us through His prasad. Lord can be in touch with us through His message, through His devotees, through His message in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So by that in constant touch with the Lord through this Navida Bhakti, one can awaken one's dormant Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada speaks about that. So someone can read this paragraph.
Hold on, Prabhu. Start.
Yes, 1 minute. Yes, Prabhu.
But in any case, sorry, material, sorry, start. One can reach the highest potential perfection stage in the human body, human form by surrendering unto Supreme Lord and developing one's sense of spiritual service. But in any case, the material bodies of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. They change according to the living entity desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies one after another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable for life, from vegetable life to warm life, from warm life to the bird life, from bird life to
Srinivas, we lost you.
animal life, from animal life to human form. The highest is this. Yeah. Hello, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me? Hello.
We are able to hear you, Prabhu.
Oh, sorry. The highest developed form is this human form is when it is possessed full of sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. Give up the material body which will be tuned to ashes and allow their air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to be rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahma Randra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occurs only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere, where he can develop a completely different type of a body, a spiritual body, which never has to meet death or change. Here is a material word. A material natural forces are living entity to change his body due to scroll down to. Due to his different desires for sense gratification, these desires are represented in the various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and demigods. All those living entities have bodies composed of matter of in different shapes. Their intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same. The human body is highly developed in all its consciousness. According to Bhagavad Gita 7.19, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord after many, many lifetimes of cultural knowledge. The cultural knowledge of reaches perfection only when the knower comes to know the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcel of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahma Jyoti. Can I continue, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah. As we learned
Yes, bro, continue.
as we learned from previous mantras, the Brahma Jyoti emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with the full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses, and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being. For under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahma Jyoti does not represent mature knowledge. Only by surrendering onto the Lord completely and developing one's sense of spiritual service does one reach to highest perfect stage. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here Prabhupada is writing that the living entity gets body out of the 84 lakh species. That was the previous paragraph, tailor-made. But in this 84 lakh species, like we was discussing about the hierarchy of the living entities, there are some living entities based on the desire. They take a very, very powerful consciousness. And even as all human beings, by the culture of the knowledge and the culture of worship, one can purify or elevate one's consciousness. So Prabhupada writes here in blue, the highest developed form is the human form when it is possessed of full sense of spiritual knowledge. That means every human being is eligible to practice spirituality. But it is his desire to accept. So Brahmanda Brahmitikono Bhagyavana Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadipai Bhakti Lata Bij. That means human form of life facilitates bhakti, but also one should have that sukriti or a bhagya. Bhagyavana Jeev, fortunate soul. What is bhagya? Very wealthy person, is it bhagya? Or a very person who's a very charismatic person, is it bhagya? Or a person who has knowledge, a scholar, is it bhagya? Is it fortune? What is fortune? The desire to do bhakti is a fortune. Why? Because recently we had this Independence Day celebration. Today is 17th, 2 days back. And then because this Dhruv section I was teaching in Bhakti about just 1-2 weeks back, and there I had come across this purport of Srila Prabhupada, 4th canto, 9th chapter, 35th verse. And Prabhupada writes there, Swarajyam. So Prabhupada, Sukdev Goswami is telling, Dhruv Maharaj is recollecting that Swarajya means what? Bhakti. I went to perform bhakti to Lord Vishnu. For what? For a kingdom greater than Brahma. I wanted to become a very powerful ruler. But I got this bhakti. But bhakti actually is Swarajya. Why? Because it frees one from the cycle of birth and death. So Prabhupada writes there, what is real independence? Rather than I telling, I'll just try to speak out. I'll just try to share the screens for all of you to see. स्वराज्यं यच्युतो मोद्यान् मानो मे भिक्षितो बत ईश्वरात् क्षीणपुण्येन फलीकाराणि वादनः. So he's telling, because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, Swarajyam. Prabhupada translates it as Swarajyam here. Swarajyam means devotional service. Swarajyam yachata maudyat mana me bhikshita bata ishwarat shena punnena falikaran iva adana. So although, because I was like a small child, I wanted kingdom greater than my grandfather Brahma. It's like a woman who was carrying a very heavy stick. She wanted it to be shifted from her one side of the shoulder to another side. And this she sincerely uttered for the help of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu appeared. And then she saw took darshan, and she told Vishnu, can you keep this log from left side to right side? And Vishnu did that, and he went back to Vaikuntha. So Dhruva is telling the same thing. I went to Lord Vishnu, but I asked what? I wanted to rule as a Kshatriya, greater than my whole ancestors. And what Lord Vishnu gave? He gave me eternity. So it's like because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me his personal service, I wanted material name, fame, prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything, he might ask out of ignorance, asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. So there's also a story of one person who goes to meet a king, and he goes and meets the king, and then after meeting a king he sees king's kurta. From the king's kurta, that person had never seen gold in his life. He sees that button is made up of gold. He tells, can I get this button of yours made of gold? The king immediately removes and gives it to him. After that, second person goes to meet a king. It happens to be king's birthday, and he has taken all the vegetables grown by the farm. Both were farmers. Both of them took some nice fresh fruits and vegetables to offer to the king. The second person asked, can you give your friendship to me? Can I become your friend? King told, why not? Yes. Then he was returning. Then he told, a friend never stays away from a friend. He stays very close to a friend. So he arranged for his residence very close to his palatial Rajmahal. So this is the difference. So Dhruv Maharaj went with the desire. And what is the desire compared to the liberation or eternity? And liberation also denied by pure devotees, because Dhruv Maharaj has got darshan of Lord Vishnu. He has got that vision of a pure devotee, Mahabhagavat. And he's seeing, actually, when you do pure bhakti, we should do for service to the Lord. But I went to do bhakti for some material desire. So he's comparing the kingdom greater than Brahma to be a husk grains of husked rice. Like when farmers, they take a paddy and they beat the paddy, there are some paddies in which there is rice, and 99% of the paddy's rice is removed. So that remaining paddy which has very little rice is called as husk rice. And
Can't hear you, Prabhu.
so Dhruv Maharaj is telling, I had got a full farm, but rather than asking for the sovereignty or a friendship with the Lord or a service of the Lord, I have asked for a husked rice. That is my foolishness. Because Lord has blessed him, Lord has given him Dhruloka, Lord has told him he will rule for 36,000 years. Lord has given him Amaratva in terms of he'll remain full for 36,000 years. And then after that, he'll go to Dhruloka, Shishumara Loka. And then after the day of the end of Brahma's life, he'll go to Vaikuntha Loka. And Dhruv Maharaj is realizing Lord personally came on his Garuda and he gave me darshan. I thought he'll take me on his Garuda and take me back, like Lord took Gajendra back home, back to Godhead. But Dhruv Maharaj is lamenting. Lord did not take me to Vaikuntha because I had a desire. Because I had a rebellion. I want to take revenge against my stepmother and Uttam. Therefore, I had to, my going back to Godhead is delayed. So Prabhupada writes here Swarajyam. In this verse, word Swarajyam. Can somebody read this?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In this verse, the word Swarajyam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity, who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord, just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets or Goloka Vrindavana planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune.
Yes. So the famous statement which you heard in His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj's lecture, the real independence is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord. So this is where it comes. 4th Canto, 9th chapter, 35th verse. The real independence to declare our dependence on Supreme Lord. So this is what is called as Swarajyam. So Prabhupada is translating here Swarajyam as devotional service. So what is, so the opportunity, so that is what Kapil Dev is telling in his prayer. Salokya sarishti samipya sarupe katvam apyuta tiyamanam gra grinanti vinayat sevanam jana. So devotees don't want 5 kind of liberation if there is no service to the Lord. So therefore, this opportunity of human form of life, what is this meant for? If it was meant for getting liberation, so only sannyasis can do that because they have to abstain from celibacy if they want to accept the Jnana Marga. Is it Ashtasiddhi? So only yogis can do that. Not everybody can do that. So what is actual liberation? So actual liberation is to reinstate in our original constitutional position. What is that original constitutional position? Service. So that anyone can do. That even a child can do, even a woman can do it, even a man can do it, even a sannyasi can do it, even a person who is working, even a person who's Indian, who's American, everyone can do it. They can just revive their consciousness of service. So therefore, out of this 84 lakh species, the human form of life is called as the highest developed form because in that we can realize our full sense of spiritual knowledge. What is that full sense of spiritual knowledge? Opportunity to serve. opportunity to serve. So this is the heart of bhakti. If that we can capture, opportunity to serve. So whether preaching, that is also service. Cooking is also service. Cleaning the temple, that is also service. Mopping the temple, that is also service. Any menial service, that is also service. And any limelight service, that is also service. So not be attached to some things and will not we will not hate some other things. That duality will not exist if we understand that everything in bhakti is service meant given by guru to the disciple. So therefore, human form of life gives us an opportunity to practice this bhakti. So Prabhupada translates bhakti. He does not translate bhakti as devotion. Prabhupada translates bhakti as devotional service. This is one of the things. You see, in all the dictionaries, bhakti means devotion. But Prabhupada translates in his purpose as devotional service. Because it's only by people are ready to give their life.
Prabhu, your voice
But
is missing for parts of your this thing, Prabhu. Like for last 1 minute, we couldn't hear. Can't hear, Prabhu.
tell me the login ID. Okay. Anyway, myself
It is still buffering, Prabhuji.
details. One minute. Someone can share me the digits, 9 digits. Find it out.
Share what, Prabhu?
Prabhu, 996.
This
Double nine.
meeting has
Prabhu, can you hear me,
1
Prabhu?
minute. Thank you. Double nine.
996 7711 4227.
Shreyas, bro, you are Hare Krishna. Now it's audible.
Prabhu, some echo is coming from.
Okay, I'll do one thing. Dasraj Prabhu. I have shared with the mail. Somebody can share their mail ID with me. I'll send this PDF and I'll log out of this lab device. Srinath Prabhu, your email ID.
I'm on a different laptop, Prabhu, so it's.
Chintala, so I'll tell you, Prabhuji. Chintala.kavita@gmail.com.
Okay, spelling Mataji.
Chintala.
1 minute.
Dot. I'll type it for you.
Mataji, I'm sending you. You can share it, share screen in the screen. Mantra 17 and Mantra 18.
I have to be the host. Somebody has to make me the host. Co-host if someone can make me.
Mataji, you can open 19th and 20th PDF.
I didn't get it, Prabhu.
I've sent you.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, Dasraj Prabhu, can you make me the co-host to share?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Just 1 minute, Mataji. Prabhuji is an office call. I'll make it.
Okay.
I'll make you Mataji. Oh, co-host cannot make other person host. Yeah. So Prabhupada is writing here the culture of knowledge. Mataji, 20th PDF. Last but second. 19th.
19th.
Yes. So Prabhupada is sharing the culture of knowledge reaches the perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering into Supreme Lord. That is, surrender is actually meaning service. The more and more we surrender, the more and more our desire to serve increases. So that is what Prabhupada is concluding in this paragraph. But the desire, on the contrary, Mataji, you can download that and then click on that.
Download it, Prabhu.
Is it shared? We are just seeing the blocks.
Oh.
You can stop sharing your Gmail and the PDF, whatever is opened, you can share that.
Yes.
Share screen.
Now you're able to see, Prabhu?
Very nice. Yes, you can scroll down, Mataji. You
Yes.
can go to the next paragraph. So Prabhupada is writing there, opposite of service in yellow, the desire for lordship is a material disease of the living being. For under the spell of that one, yellow one. The desire for lordship is a material disease to the living being. For under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates to the various bodies manifesting in material world. So we saw just now, we saw 4935 Dhruv Maharaj section. Prabhupada is writing that independence is opportunity to serve. The independence means to go back home, back to Godhead. And why we want to go back to Godhead? To serve with the Lord. We want to align with the Lord. We want to do sammata with the Lord. That is called as trying to overcome the lording or tendency and accepting the subordination in with respect to the Lord. Because of our material independence, in the second canto of Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, 36th shloka, 2636, Prabhupada writes that living entity can be under Maya, living entity can be under Krishna. He can be under Ladini Shakti or Bahiranga Shakti, because the living entity is Satsang Shakti. So it has to serve, but when it tries to serve external energy under the guise of lording or mentality, it gets trapped. But when it tries to serve the Ladini Shakti, it gets liberated. Today morning, Prabhupada is giving a class. We are playing the recording class of Prabhupada, 4th chapter, 17th verse. Prabhupada is telling about culture, this culture of knowledge. What culture of knowledge means? The culture is very simple. Whenever there is some happiness, we dance. But people dance in pubs, in parties. But that dancing entangles people. But when people come and dance in Krishna temple at the tune of Hare Krishna mantra, that dancing is liberating them. This culture of knowledge reaches perfection when we know this culture of surrendering to the Lord compared to lording or mentality. Therefore, we have only two options. Either we try to enjoy by lording or material nature, or we try to cooperate with the Lord by surrendering or by increasing our service attitude. Okay, so the next section, next paragraph is because is Vayur Anilam Amritam Tatedam Bashmantam Shariram Om Krita Smaro Kritam Smara Kritam Smara Kritam Smara. So Prabhupada says here, try to please remember my sacrifices, please remember my sacrifices. So even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. Lord remembers his service. So sharing this past time of Srila Prabhupada, one devotee went and asked, Prabhupada, what if at the time of death I go to coma? Are there no devotees around me? And I leave body without anyone? Prabhupada replies back, even if you don't remember Krishna, Krishna is your heart-to-heart friend. He will remember you. He will remember your service. He will remember your practice. Because practicing bhakti means the living entity has to sacrifice so much. He has to sacrifice his sense enjoyment plan. He has to sacrifice his alignment with the relatives. He has to sacrifice with going outing with the near and dear ones, which is against the principle of his bhakti. He sacrifices so much. So Krishna is noting down all our sacrifices in whichever ashram we are. It's big or small, tiny or huge. Krishna is noticing every sacrifice of ours because Krishna is seated in our heart as Surut, heart-to-heart friend. Therefore, Prabhupada is telling here that even if at the time of death we don't remember Krishna, Krishna never forgets us. Krishna will remember us. And by remembrance of Krishna, we'll go back to him. So someone can continue reading this next paragraph in this mantra.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranavatanam. Even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord doesn't forget him. In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relinquishing his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body, and consequently he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirms this truth.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam त्यजन्ते कलेवरं तं तं एवैति कौन्तेय तदर्थद्भावभावितः. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Thus the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life, will attain without fail. The next life, unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. The devotees, however, develop a sense of love for Godhead by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if at the time of death, a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices, but even if there is no such reminder, the Lord doesn't forget the service rendered by his pure devotee. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yes, so Prabhupada is trying to tell here, even if at the time of death the devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. So this prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee. Therefore, here this devotee is in ecstasy, and in ecstasy, many times what happens is we repeatedly speak the same thing. Or we repeatedly speak such things which are not actually when the proper condition, if we recollect, it is not very thoughtful. But when these things are like Om Kruto Smara, Krutam Smara, Kritam Smara, Kritam Smara, remember my sacrifice, surely all living entities, especially all yogis, whether Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or Jnana Yoga, everybody is sacrificing. But that sacrifice is for oneself. Jnana sacrifices for merging. The yogi sacrifices for getting the Ashtasiddhi. But the devotee is sacrificing for service. Devotee wants to establish that Lord Krishna or Lord Hari is the topmost priority in my life. And therefore anything less than that, I'm going to sacrifice. So that Lord for, that means a lot for Lord. Because a living entity who gets a material body, he has his senses, and there is so much of sense gratification allurements. And the devotee has to sacrifice that. So what devotees do? Whatever is needed for keeping body and soul together, basic minimum facility for sense gratification, like eating, sleeping, coming together in marriage, or defending, they do it in a very, very Krishna conscious way. But the outside people, they do it in a beastly way. So that sacrifices Lord never forgets. And the most important is the sacrifice of becoming a servant, eternal servant of the Lord. That service attitude, the awakening of that service attitude is what attracts the Lord. Lord doesn't get attracted. Like when Lord Shri Krishna in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the 4th chapter, is trying to tell. This is also mentioned by Prabhupada in the 2nd canto, 6th chapter, 36th shloka, that even Lord Brahma is praying, telling to Narada, I can understand Lord because I am his devotee. But I can understand for only some aspect of the Lord. I can't understand Lord completely. What to speak of myself? Even Lord also doesn't understand himself. Prabhupada writes there, why? Because the happiness the Lord wants to know himself is the property of Ladini Shakti. And Ladini Shakti is Srimati Radharani. And she's trying to serve the Lord, and Lord is trying to relish service. But when Lord is trying to relish the service and he understands the service personified Srimati Radharani is becoming more blissful. And by the time Radharani's service, the bliss of service is increasing, Lord is trying to understand that increment of the service. And by the time Lord has understood the increment of service, the Radharani's bliss of service is increasing more. And there's a constant competition between the enjoyment of the Lord and the service attitude of the servitor, especially Srimati Radharani. And this competition goes on, there is eternally it goes on. And finally Lord thinks, if at all I want to understand this, because this is ever expanding, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. The material ocean has limits, but the spiritual ocean of devotional service, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, is ever existing, ever increasing, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. And Lord desires, let me to be understand this service mood of Srimati Radharani. I have to become Radharani. I have to take up the vow of Radharani. Therefore, Lord Krishna takes the Angakanti of Radharani, takes the mood of Radharani to relish his own sweetness. You have seen that Lord Krishna, baby Krishna lying on the banyan leaf and is trying to put his left feet inside his mouth. He's trying to sip it. He's trying to, Lord is understanding that devotees are constantly glorifying my lotus feet. What kind of nectar is there in my lotus feet? And therefore, on that leaf, banyan leaf, like this time we are going to Jagannath Puri Yatra, that tree which was under which the whole causal pralaya had come, and Markandeya Rishi was trying to understand who Lord is. That tree is there in Jagannath Puri, and that below that tree was a baby Krishna with his left feet trying to put it inside his mouth and trying to taste the sweetness of his bhakti. But the same Krishna in Vrindavan, when he is relishing Radharani's service attitude, he takes up the mood of Radharani to become Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Lord can never understand himself, Prabhupada writes. Other than Lord can understand, but Lord has to take shelter of Ladini Shakti to understand what bhakti is. So Lord only has to take shelter of Ladini Shakti to understand what bhakti is. How can a person, how can a living entity try to understand Lord by Tarka? How can I understand by Jnana? How can I understand by Yoga? How can we understand by Karma? Not possible. Therefore, if you want to understand Lord, we can understand Lord only by Bhakti. Yes. So therefore, the next step is the path of devotional service, that Bhakti to Lord's lotus feet is the only right path, and occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization. So just now I told you that Lord also takes shelter of Bhakti to understand himself and becomes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or like a baby Krishna is trying to sip his left feet to understand the sweetness. That means Bhakti is so attractive. It is Sri Krishna Akarshani. In Nectar of Devotion, we'll be learning 6 symptoms of Bhakti. Kleshagni, Shubhada, and then the last one is, 6th one is Sri Krishna Akarshani. It attracts Lord Krishna himself. That is the power of Bhakti. So, if anybody practices Bhakti and there is shortcoming while practicing Bhakti, that is completely neglected. Like when Bali Maharaj is surrendering to Lord Vamandev, and that time Shukracharya is not allowing him to surrender. And then Bali Maharaj surrenders to Lord Vamandev, and Vamandev takes all his property, Brahma Loka, Patala Loka, and 3rd feet he keeps on his head. That at that moment, Vamandev is asking to Bali Maharaj, did your disciple did something wrong? Then Shukracharya is telling to Bali Maharaj, to Lord Vamandev, Mantratas Tantratas Chidram. Is telling that whatever shortcomings come while chanting some, reciting some mantra, while doing some archana, everything is overcome when we chant holy names. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, or for that matter in any Yuga, especially in Kali Yuga, when there's archan paddhati, when there's panchantrik vidhi in our temple, we're trying to worship. Along with the arati, we recite this mantra: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Why we chant this mantra? It is accompanied every time. When Prabhupada was getting sannyas, devotees were trying to do yajna, and that time they were trying to utter mantra. The Ritvik is again and again telling soft, chant softly. But Prabhupada was saying chant loudly. Because Prabhupada knew that bhakti is such a powerful process, it even attracts Lord Hari. And whatever small difficulties, shortcomings a practitioner may undergo while practicing bhakti, that is overlooked by the Lord. That is the next section. That is what Prabhupada is trying to write here. That whatever shortcomings, worldliness, little bit inabilities, that doesn't matter, because bhakti is so attractive. Bhakti attracts Lord himself. Okay, Mataji, can you reduce the font size of this PDF so that others can see it? It has become enlarged. And someone can read next section. Path of devotion is the only right path, and occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization.
1 second, Prabhu.
Yeah, no issues. Only thing, when it expands, you have to share the PDF because it will show only the folder. Best is you stop sharing the screen, click on the laptop, and then project the PDF and then share the PDF. Yes, someone can try to read this one. This is this kind, what Prabhupada is writing here is a very, very intimate thing. And therefore, Lord's intimate relation with his devotees. I've given the heading here. This is like, it's very difficult for other the practitioners of other paths of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. There is so much of strict discipline. Why there is so much of strict discipline? Because the person is lording our mentality. But in bhakti, everything is overlooked because everything is fair in love and war. So Lord knows bhakti, anybody has to perform bhakti means one has to love him. So whatever shortcoming is there inside, like in family, when a son is there and father is there, a father might be as a boss, might be very strict with his employees. But if a son does some mistake, he overlooks it. Anyways, my son. Similarly, the practitioners of other path, jnana, ashtanga, karma, they're like the employees. Lord's dealing with them is like an employee. But the devotees, they are like children, like son of Lord, and therefore is very, very partial and is very intimate with them. Yes, someone can read this paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Lord's intimate relationship with his devotees. The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in the Bhagavad Gita 9.32, 9.34. Even if one commits the most abnormal action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attain lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Partha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Sudras, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmans, the devotee and saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me surely will come to me. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Prabhupada is commenting here that even if one commits the most abominable activities, it's like analogy is given of like a child is playing in the ground in the rainy season. He's playing cricket, or he's playing football, and he slips and falls in the mud or in the dirty slug of the mud, which is very brown and black. He comes back home. When mother sees him, oh, it's so dirty. The clothes have become so dirty. Immediately he goes under the shower and is taking bath. And practicing bhakti is like we are under the shower. And at the end of the life, when we become purified, that is like the shower is over. We are cleansed. So similarly, whatever sinful activities, whatever wrong actions are being performed because of our past habits. We don't want to, but unknowingly it is happening. Lord doesn't take it very, very seriously. Lord sees like a mother who's seeing the child who has slipped and fell inside the ground, is coming back home. And it is little burden, it's cumbersome for her to wash it, but she puts in the washing machine and then washes it and dries it and tells the son, mind your steps next time. Don't try to again slip. So Prabhupada is telling here. So similarly, the abominable action practice, performed by a devotee, because actions which are abominable, they are on the material platform, but the bhakti is on the spiritual platform. And bhakti, the devotee understands Lord is my master. So that is like higher principle than the abominable action. But because we are a preaching mission, and the actions speak louder than words. Therefore, practitioner of bhakti should also try to follow principles very, very strictly, so that others don't go away from Krishna consciousness because of that example. So as preachers of Krishna consciousness, we should try to follow strictly. At the same time, somebody is practicing bhakti and he happens to present, or he happens to show some abnormal actions. Occasionally, one should not try to criticize it or not try to spread it, but one should try to just become observer and try to give him that space and time where he will get purified. Otherwise, he goes out of the association of devotees. Where is the hope? He can't practice bhakti only. Therefore, it has to be dealt very, very maturely. And Lord Himself is giving here assurance that He takes complete responsibility. Being completely absorbed in me, surely will come to me. So, Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes here the real purport of word Suduracharu. Someone can, yes, continue, Mataji.
Scroll down, Prabhuji. Yeah. The real purport of the word Sudruchara. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur explained that these verses in this way: one should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the saints. Even though such a devotee may seem to be Sudruchara, a person to lose character, one should try to understand the real purport of the word Sudruchara. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely for the maintenance of the body, again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed in one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs action in that direction also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines, because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of his body. The proportion of activities for maintenance of the body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in devotional service. As long as the proportion of devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long, because by the grace of the Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. Therefore, the path of devotional service is the only right path if one is on the right path. Even an occasional occurrence of the worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization.
Yes. So this is the meaning that bhakti is such a powerful process. So if one is very sincere, one is very serious, and he has no ulterior motive, what to speak of that? Even a person occasionally shows some worldliness, he also gets purified. So bhakti itself is such a powerful path that it's like, Lord is dealing, like a father deals with his son, and he deals with the employee in a different way. Similarly, Lord deals with his devotees and with karmi or karma yogi or jnana yogi and ashtanga in a different way. So this is his lenience, or it is his intimate relationship with the devotee. Therefore, one should very respectfully see the devotee, whoever he might be. So one may see some worldly inconveniences or worldly occurrences or inabilities or shortcomings in a devotee in his character. One should never speak it to others. If at all one has to speak it, one has to speak it to the concerned person who is authority in that area, so that it doesn't become a legal issue. The ISKCON name is not tarnished or hampered. And for that step, one may have to speak, but one should not take the rules and regulations of the government. हिंदी में बताते हैं, कानून को अपने हाथ में नहीं लेना चाहिए. Some person is traveling in a bus and suddenly, some thief comes and starts attacking, and suddenly he takes a rod and hits on his head, and the thief is killed. Thief might be trying to steal some watch of 5,000 rupees, but the person takes a rod and hits him and the thief is dead. That is called as kanun ko haath mein lena. Similarly, a devotee may show some worldly occurrences or inabilities or some shortcomings from the point of character, but one should not speak it in devotee circle just for trying to bring that person's name or some his to just pull him down, but one should try to do it to help him so that he doesn't spoil ISKCON's name, or he doesn't create confusion in the people of new people who are coming to practicing Krishna consciousness. So one should do it very maturely, and one should try to approach the concerned authority who can help him. So one should not try to start telling, "Arey, you are a devotee, you're doing like these things." It is like taking the law in one's hand. But if you have that adhikar, if you have that position of authority, and if you are responsible for that person, we may tell him. It's like your family member, you can tell him. But if somebody is some other devotee, and we have no control, and we have no authority, then we should simply escalate this issue to a concerned authority. Yes, the facilities of devotional service are easily obtained by the intelligent devotees, but denied to the impersonalists because they're attached to the Brahmajyoti feature of the Lord. Like the father deals with the employees in a way the boss deals with the employees. The father deals with the son like the Lord deals with his devotees. Therefore, special benefit Lord is showing his partiality to the devotees because he gives them the bhakti, facilities of bhakti. And so Lord is Sarva Shaktiman, and by practicing bhakti, devotees can benefit from the Sarva Shaktiman aspect of the Lord. They can benefit from the Namita Bhakti, the holy name, holy fame, message, dham, and associated devotees. They can benefit from it, and they can purify their heart, and they can realize Lord, and they can increase service attitude, and then they become eligible for going back to Godhead. Someone can read this next paragraph.
Prabhuji, I have a question, Prabhuji. Can I ask the question now, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. It says that even if one commits the most abominable action, is there a parameter for that? I mean, the sinful actions which are condemned by the society, and especially if somebody was very senior, considered as a pure devotee, still doing those actions.
Like Bil Mangal Thakur, he is on the way to Vrindavan, and he is passing. Because of his past conditioning, he goes to a Brahman's. One Brahman Patni, a Brahman, wife of Brahman, she is coming to fetch water from a pond, and he gets attracted by her beauty, and he approaches the Brahmana, and Brahmana tells, "Oh Sadhu, what you need?" He is having all respect for the Sadhu, and Bil Mangal Thakur says, "I want to spend some time with your wife personally." And the Brahmana, he thinks it is like, that time somebody in the dress of Sadhu coming and speaking like that. It's like the Brahmana was so confident that Lord is testing me. It is Lord is testing me, therefore the Sadhu is speaking in this way. So let me arrange for it, and I'll see what is going to happen. And he tells his wife to spend time with Bil Mangal Thakur. And Bil Mangal Thakur, he's thinking, I'm going to Vrindavan for self-realization. What this already have left, Chintamani. She has told the same amount of affection I had for Lord Krishna, I would have become a pure devotee by this time. And immediately by seeing that lady, he tells her, "Oh mother, kindly remove her hairpin." And she innocently removes the hairpin, and she tells, "Give it to me." And she gives it to Bil Mangal Thakur, and he takes it and pierces with the hairpins, 2 hairpins in his eyes. So first part appears like a worldly occurrences, but the second part, the Lord takes care. So this is called as most abominable action. A devotee, practicing devotee, he gets because of his past conditioning, false. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavatam first canto also, woman and money. That means for a man, woman, or for a woman, man, opposite sex, and money. These are 2 things which the living entity has been dealing from time immemorial, from many, many lifetimes. So it's not very easy to give up their attachment for these 2. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, Lord as a heart-to-heart friend takes the responsibility for cleansing the heart. Nashta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavata sevya. So Shunmata Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravan Kirtana, Rudantasto Abhadrani, Surut, Dunoti, Surut Satam. So it's a heart-to-heart friend who claims this. So therefore, such kind of worldly occurrences where a person is caught in things like illicit sex or laundering of money or intoxication or gambling, these are the main 4 principles which can be categorized as abominable actions. But still is chanting Hare Krishna. So the concerned people has to be addressed. If it's a legal issue, then the authority will try to hand it over to the legal authorities so that his name is not tarnished. But in our heart, we should not have any kind of vengeance or inconvenience, or we should not try to judge a person. Because Vilmangal Thakur, if somebody has seen him, they would have thought, what kind of rascal is this person? But after that, he's going to Vrindavan and is getting darshan of Lord Hari, and is writing Krishna Karanamrit, and his song of Varje Prasidham we are singing in Purushottam Mass. So what matters is at the end of the life, what is the consciousness of a person before leaving the body? We might be very pakka, following 4 principles, everything very nice, but then we offend some Vaishnava and then at the end, we have to take another birth. Or somebody is in very petty, very terrible condition, precarious condition, but just before leaving his body, he becomes purified and goes back to Godhead. So it is little difficult to comprehend.
Resonate much with me, Prabhuji.
Huh?
Doesn't resonate with me.
What?
I'm saying what you said doesn't resonate much with me.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate, but that resonates with Krishna's mood.
If somebody stops at a point and understand, okay, I'm going to commit a mistake, at that point you can forget and forgive that person. But person knows and is still doing it and is still that given a high position and all that thing, considered as a pure devotee and being worshipped, then
No, that is not resonating. Especially I understand. I don't know where it is happening, in which place it is happening. Wherever it is happening, that is a different thing. But Prabhupada is trying to tell here is that they are not given post position anywhere, or they are not treated as pure devotee. Okay, if that is done, it is like legally, it is administratively, it is not up to the mark. The person who is undergoing all these things can be given an opportunity to practice bhakti. He is not barred from associating with devotees, but with some rules and regulations. But somebody is doing this and is still continuing the post and position and is, then it depends. It's up to the guru, or it's up to the authorities.
This mantra should not be applicable to them then.
It's like how it is it's not for one person who is doing it knowingly. It is for unintentional sins. This mantra, what is speaking about, if you see in this mantra, Prabhupada writes unintentional. If you see the previous thing, unintentional mistakes are forgiven. Yeah, there only.
I mean, that's the underlined word, unintentional.
Yes.
It will be most manipulated mantra people can misuse.
Yes. So unintentional means because of conditioning, a person does it accidentally, then Lord forgives it. But somebody does it knowingly again and again because of the habit, then the bhakti, what he's doing, and that kind of activity, both will take him next birth. He'll have to come again. And again, Lord is Swarat. This is our resonance. So what Lord and what the Guru of such a person, if is very merciful to him, then we don't know what that person has done in the past life. So it's therefore, basically it is unintentional. Okay. You're trying to speak about some issue somewhere else, which you know, or you're just telling it's a question. Okay, I understood by your smile. No issues. Next paragraph. Someone can read the next paragraph. Facilities of devotional service.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The facilities of devotional service are denied to the impersonalists. They are attached to the Brahmajyoti feature of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantras, they cannot penetrate the Brahma Jyoti because they do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly world jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor, as confirmed in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita 12. All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities: hearing about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, remembering the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, serving the Lord, enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result. Just by glorifying the Lord, Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection. By praying to the Lord, Akrura attained the desired result. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. By worshipping the Lord, Patu Maharaj attained perfection. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, attained perfection. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. Through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. By surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaja Bali attained the desired result. Thank you, Guruji.
Yeah, please continue, bro. The theme of this mantra and of all the mantras of Vedic literature is properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a mature fruit of Vedic tree of wisdom. Basically, Upanishad hints indirectly towards the Lord, but Bhagavatam, which is a Vedanta Sutra, it directly explains. Therefore, if wherever you find difficulty in Ishopanishad, I have connected with Bhagavatam so that we can understand it very nicely. That is what Prabhupada is trying to tell here. Can you continue, bro, reading?
Actually, the explanation of this mantra and of practically all the mantras of Vedic hymns is summarized in the Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra explains the questions and answers between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami at the beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the signs of God is based on our devotional life. Bhagavatam was hid by Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. Because Shukadeva was a great spiritual Maharaj Parikshit was, what is the duty of every man?
Your voice is breaking. I will try to read it. Maharaj Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, specifically at the time of death? Sukadeva Goswami answered, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyasya Ichchatabayam. Everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify and remember the person of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties, the super soul of all living entities. So yes, someone can read the next paragraph. Only who has learned the art of sacrifice by employing his senses in the service of the Lord can utilize the result of such practice at the time of death. Prabhupada में से ओके आपने जीवन जिया सब कुछ करके सब प्रिंसिपल्स तोड़ दिया सब कुछ हो गया बस जब बूढ़े बनने के बाद बनता था जो भगवान मैं आपके चरणों में आ चुका हूँ पूरा मेरा पाप को हर लेना तो बिल्ली चली हज नहाने ऐसा बोलते हैं ना तो it's not like that. After eating all the rats and the cat is going to hajj or Prayag. So Prabhupada is saying it's not like that. One has to sacrifice by developing service attitude. Then only one can utilize the result of such practice at the time of death. Yes, someone can read this paragraph.
Yes, Prabhuji. So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about Him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring Him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a scientist being, and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not include in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of a worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. Sri Ishopanishad directly directs us toward such godly activities. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death when the body is dislocated? And how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. Hare Krishna.
Therefore, Prabhupada is telling also that if you don't remember Krishna, remember at the time of death, Sudurachara, that unintentional sins. Lord may also take responsibility, Guru may take responsibility, but Prabhupada also at the end is trying, because he has seen the ISKCON movement. So ISKCON has had through Guru. ISKCON had to go through so many things, so many ups and downs. So after 50 years, why we are here? Because there are sincere followers. They are sincere followers, but who are weak. But they are sincere followers who are very honest, who are having no ulterior motive. It's not that people who come to Bhakti, they have some motives, but somehow by the time factor, by the modes, one is carried off. But what we should do is, we may be very stably situated in our practice of Bhakti, but that should not bring a tinge of pride in our practice and try to overlook on those people who are not able to practice because of some conditioning. And at the same time, you should understand that, oh Lord, please give me strength, like till the last breath of my life, let me practice these principles strictly, so that I become a good devotee. I may not become a great devotee, but I may become a good devotee. I can become a good disciple. I can become a good servant. But still, this is material world. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, in 3rd chapter, there are accidents on the royal roads. So therefore, when accidents happen, when slips happen, one should try to overlook it. At the same time, one should try to continue the practice. Like we have seen the horse is put to pattas like this near the eyes. It doesn't see here and there, because it sees here and there, it sees that horse running, this horse falling, it gets bewildered. Similarly, when we practice bhakti, we should understand whether this thought process, whether that by seeing this devotee, my bhakti is being stunted, or am I getting such a thought process by which is stunting my bhakti, which may become an obstacle for my bhakti. Then we have to be very, very careful. So therefore, Prabhupada is telling, unintentional sins, Krishna will take care. At the same time, for our own practice, so for our practice, what we should do, what Prabhupada is trying to do in the last line here, sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. Then one can utilize the result of one's practice in this time of death. This is for our application, for one-to-one. When we read Ishopanishad, the application of Ishopanishad is for my own practice. If I don't sacrifice, if I don't try to stop sense gratification, mold my life in such a way that engage in godly activities without wasting a second, and not trying to give up sense gratification, trying to sacrifice for Krishna's pleasure, that is my application. But the other part which is being spoken here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur telling how we should see other people. Therefore, when we see others, how we should see? Then we should see as Sudurachara. He might be Durachara, but Krishna will take care of him. It is none of my business. But for my own practice, let me not become a Durachara. Because, Krishna will take care of me also. No. For our practice, we should be very, very strict. But for others, it is none of our business. So when we do that, then we can become like that horse who is running at his own speed. And therefore, many things will be there. Material world means, if you go to hospital, you will not feel healthy people. So material world is like a hospital. So people are having health issues. Somebody is having this principle, somebody is having that principle. And we are trying to make devotees out of the people of the material world. And material world means people who are having some kind of shortcomings or the other. And we are trying to polish them, and we are trying to make them devotees. So surely issues will be there. A number of issues will be there. But how to see that n number of issues? When we see others, we should follow that principle. For earlier principle, Sudharacharu. When we, for ourselves, we should follow the last paragraph, what it's speaking here. We should try to strictly follow. Then to help us. So we will go to the next shloka. We have 15 minutes. We'll try to cover it quickly. Mataji, can you stop sharing this and project the other shloka? Agnenaya supataraye asman vishvani deva vayunani vidvan yodasma juranameno bhuishtam te nama yuktim videma. So, O my Lord, Agni, as powerful as fire, Naya, kindly lead, Supat, by the right path, Raya, for reaching you, Asman, us, Vishwani, all, Deva of my Lord, Vayunani, actions, Vidvan, the knower, you the, kindly remove Asmat from us, Juranam, all hindrances on the path, Enah, all vices, Bhuishtam, most numerous, Te, unto you, Nama Yuktim, words of obeisances, Videma, I do. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you, and since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. So the devotee, who is a pure devotee, perfected devotee, Mahabhagavad is offering this prayer. It is like Bhakti Thakur telling Amara Jivana Sada Papirata Nahiko Punyaralesha. In our beginning stage of Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, we follow principles strictly, we think, oh, we are very nice. But in the pure devotee, more and more pure devotee, we think little small imperfectionness, we think, oh, I'm so fallen, I am so useless, I've done so much sinful activities. So here, this mantra 18 is speaking about that kind of thought process. So Prabhupada says, Prabhupada is comparing path of bhakti with karma kanda path. So all of you know this karma kanda path. All of you might be knowing, na? Who did karma kanda, and then he had to lament, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Ishopanishad is also going on, chanting is also going on. So who was that person who did the karma kanda path and he risked his life? Someone can tell? Who did karma kanda and he achieved a very risky path? All of you know the story of King Nrga in 10th canto. He was a king who used to see Muhurta. In Purushottam Mas, he used to give one cow and used to get the benefit of 1,000 cows. In Purushottam Mas Purnima, he used to give one cow at a particular time to a Brahmana. He used to get the benefit of getting 1,000 cows. So in that way, he gave one cow, and that cow came back to his vineyard. And then that cow was given by him to another Brahmana. And both the Brahmanas were fighting for that one cow. Oh, this is my cow, this is my cow. And then what happened? They both cursed him. And because that was the particular tithi, that curse also became 1,000 times more. But somehow or other, he had some faith that Krishna is supreme. So because of that, he became a lizard in the courtyard of Krishna in Dwarka. And then Krishna saw him and touched him. That time, this lizard was delivered from the body of the lizard and became King Nrga. So Karma Kanda path is so risky. Therefore, Prabhupada is writing in this paragraph. By surrendering to the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of complete realization. The Lord is addressed as a fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. I described in the previous mantras, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is His feature as a person of Godhead. It is impersonal Brahmajyoti is a dazzling covering over His face. Fruitive activities are the karma kanda path of self-realization, is the lowest stage in this endeavor. As soon as such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principle, like karma kanda, like Maharaj Naga gave the cow came back to his vineyard, again he gave it to some other Brahmana, both of them cursed him. So that acted against his interest, it became vikarma. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusioned living entity simply for sense gratification. Thus, such activities become hindrance on the path of self-realization. So here devotee is praying, before coming to bhakti, whatever shortcomings I had done, I had accepted some karma kanda path, jnana kanda path, whatever shortcomings were there, oh my Lord, kindly burn it like a fire burning. So Prabhupada continues, this human form of life is like it's very, very rare. It's a sudurlabam and it is arthadam. Sudurlabam because after 84 lakh species, one gets human form of life in Bharata Varsha. And it's arthadam because in that human form of life, we can cultivate service attitude and we can learn the art. Prabhupada said to one of his disciple, this is also a very interesting pastime. One of the disciple of Prabhupada had gone with his wife to preach in some place, and Prabhupada had sent both of them. But because they were very new, the wife was cultivating a new boy, a hippie, and she ran away with him. And this husband came back to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him, life is like a hardwood. If we can carve Krishna out of it, that is great. He was a carpenter. And therefore Prabhupada told this statement. I don't know carpenter or not, but Prabhupada wanted to make it point that okay, what has happened. But now what best can you do now after seeing this thing? Rather than becoming remorse and thinking of wife, better is the purpose of this life. Wife is a part of life. The relatives are a part of life. But the most important thing in life is practicing Krishna consciousness and going back to body. So this I'm telling for all of your devotees standing 16 rounds. And this is not meant to be told by you to your relatives, Prabhu is telling like this. But the main intention is that bhakti cannot stop. Bhakti cannot stop for anyone. So Prabhupada is telling Arthadam. Someone can read the next paragraph?
Yes, Prabhu. Although human form is although
No, you
human
can
form
directly,
is, okay,
directly read the paragraph.
yes, bro. Self-realization is possible in the human form of life, but not in other forms. There are 84 lakh million species or forms of life, of which the human form qualified by Brahmanical culture presents the only chance to obtain knowledge of transcendence. Brahmanical culture includes truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge, and full faith in God. It is not that one simply becomes proud of his high parentage. Just as being born the son of a big man affords one a chance to become a big man. So being born the son of Brahmana gives one a chance to become. I missed something. To become a Brahmana. But such a birthright is not everything. For one still has to attain the Brahmanical qualifications of for himself. As soon as one he becomes proud of his birth as the son of a Brahmana and neglects to acquire the qualifications of a real Brahmana, he at once becomes degraded and falls from the path of self-realization. Thus, his life mission as a human being is defeated. In the Bhagavad Gita, 6 chapter 41 to 42 slokas, we are assumed by the Lord that the yoga brashtas, our souls fallen from the path of self-realization, are given a chance to rectify themselves by taking birth either in the families of good Brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants. Such births afford higher chances for self-realization. If these chances are misused due to illusion, one loses the good opportunity of human life afforded by the Almighty Lord.
Facilities which we get in bhakti, to practice bhakti, is because of our past bhakti. We could not practice bhakti in past life, or we got attached to something, we were attracted to someone, or we fumbled, we slipped, we fell down. Therefore, in this, the bhakti is also coming with us in this life, and also that kind of shortcoming also coming in this life. So rather than again trying to fan that shortcoming, we should try to fan bhakti and increase the fire of bhakti and try to practice bhakti fully and try to wind up our business in the material world. So therefore, bhakti compared to karma kanda and jnana kanda, bhakti is very, very powerful. That is what Prabhupada is trying to highlight in the next paragraph. As some other devotee can try to read quickly.
Superiority of bhakti process in comparison to karma kanda and jnana kanda. The regulated principles are such that one who follows them is promoted from platform of fruitive activities to platform of transcendental knowledge. After many, many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one becomes perfect when he surrenders unto the Lord. This is the general procedure. But one who surrenders at the very beginning, as recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all reactions to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in karma kanda activities, whereas in jnana kanda, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of bhakti, there is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions because a devotee of the Lord attains all good qualifications of the Lord himself, what to speak of those of a Brahmana. A devotee automatically attains the qualifications of an expert Brahmana authorized to perform sacrifices, even though the devotee may not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmana family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater, and he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmana simply on the strength of devotional service.
Yeah, there is saying today Prabhupada in the morning class was telling, Suchi hoya muchi hoy yadi hari teje. The Brahmana will become a dog eater or a Chandala if he gives up Lord Hari. And muchi hoy suchi hoy yadi hari bhaje. A dog eater or a Chandala or a cobbler can become a more than a Brahmana, that is Vaishnava, if he practices bhakti. So therefore, this is the power of bhakti. So Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Ashtanga Yoga, little shortcoming, little deviancy, little breaking of principles, one is lost. It's like going to 99 and coming to 0. You see the snake and ladder? A person goes till the end like Vishwamitra Muni, just trying to practice by trying to do penance for thousands of 10,000 years. Suddenly some Apsara comes, gone. All his bhakti went, all his tapasya has gone 0. Again, next time he became angry. First time he fell to lust, then he became anger, then he came down. But bhakti is not like that. Because bhakti is completely spiritual, it is not material. Therefore, irrespective of all the anarthas, irrespective of everything, whatever progress in bhakti one has done, he remains there. Neha bikramana ashosti prattavayona vidyate swalpam pisasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. What is the meaning of it? Is that bhakti, actually the living entity is trying to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Like a prisoner is inside the prison and he's trying to come out. But because of his conditioning, every time he comes out, he's trying to pickpocket and other things. So again, he's put in the prison. Similarly, a living entity is trying to get the cycle of birth and death, but somehow because of some conditioning is trying to fall prey to some sinful activities. But the bhakti aspect doesn't come down. Bhakti remains as it is. Therefore, in the next life, he gets birth in a high family, Shrutinam, Shrimatam, and also he gets the opportunity to rectify that and go back to Godhead. And that is one thing we have to be very cautious when we see such people. Be very cautious, not judge them. But we should, for our own self, that is not a benchmark. For ourselves, we'll strictly follow. But when somebody is doing like that, no judging. We are nothing to do anything, contribution, not judging, nothing like that. So that makes our life very, very simple. Yes. So that is omnipotency of the Lord. Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda, little small mistake, gone, 0. But bhakti, it remains intact. It is not lost. It is as it is. So how omnipotent Lord protects a devotee from unintentional sins, Prabhupada is again mentioning here. Very, very important point. Because bhakti is so powerful, even if a devotee does unintentional sins, he's on the right path. How it does that? Someone can read next paragraph. We will take 5 more minutes and we'll conclude.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna,
I'll read.
Prabhuji.
Since the omnipotent Lord. Yeah, quickly read, Mataji.
Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are specially offered to the devotee, even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in the case of a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42 says, Swapadamulam bhajata priyasya tyaktanya bhavasya hari paresha vikarmayachotpatitam kotanchit dhunoti sarvam hridi sannivishta. The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet, that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of Vikrama, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. In this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad, the devotees prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls, thus all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of his directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge is protected in all respects. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So, a devotee guided by the spiritual master, the Vedic injunction of the Lord himself from within is protected from the mire of material illusion and sure to reach perfection. So, it's not with Karma Yogi, not with Jnana, not with Ashtanga, but only the Bhakta. There are three principles: is Guru, Vedas, the Bhagavatam, and Lord. That is Hari, Hari Guru, Vaishnavas. They guide him to rescue him from the material mire of illusion and to take him back to Godhead. So Prabhupada concludes, the Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational processes. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord. Yasya deve para bhakti tata deve tata guru tasaiti kathitartha prakashante mahatmana. Lord and spiritual master. One takes shelter of bona fide spiritual master, it is to be understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. The Lord appears as spiritual master for the devotee. Thus, the spiritual master, the Vedic injunction, and the Lord himself from within all guide the devotee in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the mire of material illusion. The devotee, thus protected all around, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at this mantra, and Srimad Bhagavatam expands it further. Hearing and chanting the glory of the Lord is itself an act of piety. Shrunvata Shvatakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanat Hridayantastya Bhadrani Duvidanoti Surut Satam. Lord wants everyone to hear and chant his glories because he is a well-wisher of all living entities. Surut Satam. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things. Then one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualification and then effects the lower modes of nature completely, mode of goodness and passion completely vanish. Then the devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to the path of Lord, and the way to attain him, as all the doubts diminish, becomes a pure devotee. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Sri Ishopanishad, the knowledge that brings one near to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Thank you so much, all of you. So with my limited understanding, I have tried to share some things. But the most important thing is what we understood here is very, very simple thing. Path of karma. This is very important thing. Conclusion. Path of karma, path of jnana, path of ashtanga. There is no spiritual aspect in it. If one has to progress in these three paths, one has to add the element of bhakti. So karma becomes powerful when it becomes karma yoga. That is bhakti. Karma mishra bhakti. Jnana becomes powerful when there is gives result. The person who wants to merge in Brahman also, he has to take up bhakti. Then only becomes successful. That becomes jnana mishra bhakti. And then bhakti mishra, and then the ashtanga person, he also gets perfection only when there is element of bhakti. Therefore, Chitraketu Maharaj is singing, he is praying, offering this prayer. Nana kaprishtam na parameshtam na rasadhipatyam apunarbhavam cha. At the end he says samanjasa eva. So Lord is called as the source of all opportunities. He gives a success to the karma yogi. He gives success to the jnana yogi. He gives success to the ashtanga yogi, and he also gives success to the bhakti yogi. But the success which he gives to the bhakti yogi is like a father giving to the son. But the success which Lord gives to the other yogis, because they have to take up some little bhakti to become successful in that path. But what is the problem? Along with that success, there is also a lot of risk. And therefore, but the success which they get is temporary. But that element of bhakti which they've added to that path takes them to the next level. From karma yoga, he comes to jnana, to ashtanga, to bhakti, because of that element of little bhakti. Then he becomes a bhakti, pure bhakta. So the glory of bhakti is there is so much of assistance given by the Lord through the internal energy, Ladini Shakti. There is so much of omnipotency of the Lord in his holy name, form, pastime. It's like accident on the royal road. There is a lot of, in one life you can go back to Godhead, but you need a association of devotees, and we need an attitude to see the devotees. Because devotees come from different backgrounds. Some come from very, very different backgrounds. So therefore, in path of bhakti, the advancement is very fast. But in other paths, there is no aparad. In karma, there is no aparad. In jnana, there is no aparad. In ashtanga, there is no aparad, because they all practice alone. They're called munis. One person thinks completely different from the other person. Prabhupada writes in the Sita Muni. He speaks of Muni. Muni means one has to think completely different. Therefore, they're under different trees. But when it comes to bhakta, they come together because they know Krishna is the center. So what bhakti, what is the most important thing? Krishna is like that one switch. By switching on, everything is taken care. Like Krishna is like root. By pouring water on the root, the whole tree is nourished. Krishna is like a stomach. By putting food inside the stomach, the whole senses are taken care. So when there's a tree, we don't see a very infected portion of the tree and see what kind of tree is this. So therefore, this tree fruit I'll not eat. Or we don't see a person and see, okay, his leg has an infection, his finger has an infection, his teeth has an infection, his hair has an infection, and we reject the person. No. Similarly, in this world, in ISKCON is a moment, Krishna is a stomach, Krishna is a root, Krishna is at one switch, and this ISKCON is not different from Prabhupada. Therefore, there will be some devotees who will be having some infection of sinful activities. But by saying them, we should not develop distaste towards practice of our bhakti. They will be there. You cannot remove them per se. But that should not absorb our mental absorption. We should not become like a sponge when we see them. We should become like a stone when we see them. We can pray for them. We can be compassionate for them. But we should not think, Arey, what is this? Does his guru has no sense? Does his authorities have no sense? What kind of thing is being done here? No, that is not our cup of milk. That is not our cup of bhoga. Therefore, bhakti advancement is very, very quick. Similarly, the demotion in bhakti because of aparad is very, very quick. Therefore, we should be very, very cautious of not offending anyone, because this offense will take us again in next life. Not the sins. Sins, with one chanting, it goes off, but offense will not go off. So we have to be very, very cautious, because bhakti is such a powerful process. Practice of bhakti can take us in one life back to Godhead. Similarly, the offense also can take us for many, many lifetimes in this material world. So therefore, we should learn this art of what? Sudurachara. How Krishna sees them. How a pure devotee sees them. And for our own self, we should sacrifice the sense gratification. And that sacrifice will help us remember Krishna or make Krishna remember us. So for oneself, we should be very, very strict. But when we see others, we are no one to judge, unless and otherwise we are not the authority. So therefore, this kind of consciousness we have to cultivate. Then practice of bhakti becomes very, very easy. Otherwise, therefore, bhakti is called as simple for simple and complex for the complex, complicated for the complicated. Why? We have to mind our own business. And complication, people who have to do with so many other people, then they become stuck up. So yes, when it becomes, we are in the center. We are the taking brunt side, and it is spoiling our name. It is spoiling our family's lineage. It is creating a lot of trouble to us. Then surely we should take some actions for it. But if none of those things are there, we have very less time. Whole Bhagavatam is there, Chaitanya Charitamrita is there, so many things is there. we can try to invest time in reading it again and again, over and over, and try to learn Ishopanishad, try to learn Bhakti. After Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Yoga is there, Bhakti Vedanta is there, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvam is there. There's so much to be read. So we have much more time to focus on something much more higher. Okay. Thank you all, dear devotees. Bye.
Prabhuji, one question is thinking also aparadh, Prabhu? Like sometimes we are not saying or doing anything, but in your mind when you get that thought, is that also aparadh, Prabhu?
Yeah, this comes in first canto, in 17th chapter. Nanu Rajam Kalim Samrat. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying to the Kali, Nanu Drishtim Kalim Samrat, Saranga Eva Sarabuk, Kushalani Asusiddhanti, Na Kushalani, Na Itarani Cha. So Parikshit Maharaj did not kill Kali. Why? In Kali Yuga, the acts, good acts, just by thinking, you get the result. Bad acts, till the time you don't perform, you will not get the result. But problem is, nip it in the bud. When thoughts are there, that will become actions. That will become words. That will become actions. That will become character, second nature. But in Kali Yuga, Kushalani Asu Siddhanti. Good things, do it, you get result. You just by thinking it, you get result. Good things, I want to do this, you'll get result. Bad things, unless and otherwise you don't do it, you'll not get reaction for it. But still, thought don't remain thoughts. So we have to be very, very cautious. You'll not get any reactions for it, but that will become over a period of time, it will become culture if you don't nip it in bud. Hare Krishna. So we'll conclude now, it's already 8:43. All the best for your closed book exam. All the best for your open book exam. And the questions are very easy. And the PDF is there with Mataji and with Dasraj Kuriku also, mantra 1 to mantra 18. You can refer to yellow highlighted, blue highlighted for OBS, CBS. That will help you out.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Any example you would like to give? Like they're easy, like few questions.
Example, questions are there in your handbook. The questions are in that handbook.
That analogy of the cobra with the diamond on the head. Once, please.
So all the questions are in the handbook, Prabhu. It's in the group.
Yeah. Analogy of the cobra on the diamond, it's like, that comes in the avidyamcha vidyamcha. Andam ta prashanti avidyam upasate tato bhuye evate tamo yetu vidyam prataha. That cobra is compared to the avidya, and that materialistic education are impersonalistic conclusion. But the result of that is compared to the diamond. So somebody goes to get that, he gets stung by that cobra. That means he dies. Spiritual death. This is the conclusion. This is the learning we learn from it. Spiritual death in the sense that one doesn't get to go back to Godhead. This is the higher lesson out of it. But the lesson Prabhupada is trying to give there is one continues in the cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada, the analogy is there in the handbook. You need to just write the same analogy. You don't try to write what I'm trying to tell now. So the avidya can fetch us in a very precarious condition. Rather than sending us back to Godhead, that diamond can continue with us, that entanglement in the cycle of birth and death. It looks very charismatic, modern civilization. Similarly, impersonal philosophy looks very charismatic, but it doesn't liberate us. It puts us in a precarious condition. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
To learn.
Hare Krishna, Sakshi Prabhu, before we conclude, just want to update you that our open book and closed book exam have moved by 1 week.
Postponed to the next week.
Yes, so we are not having exam on closed book exam on Saturday. I spoke to you know that, no, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Prabhuji updated. Okay, super. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Therefore, devotees are peacefully attending it.
A lot of people are demotivated, Prabhuji, because we so many of them have prepared. They have prepared very well, very enthusiastic. We want to give the exam, but somehow it is postponed.
No issue. It's very easy. All the questions are in the handbook itself.
Yeah, I'm sure 99% of them would have been very happy to see that postponement message. 1
Hare
week,
Krishna.
1 week time is a big time.
Yeah, it's a big time.
Very good.
So, anyways, the whatever good things you could see in the discussion, that is from Parampara, and whatever I heard from my spiritual masters, and whatever which you could not accommodate or resonate or not accept or not understand, that is my shortcoming from my side. So you can all refer to Prabhupada purports and previous acharyas and lectures of all spiritual masters. And the whole thing is you have to be very cautious in bhakti. I'll just conclude with this last thing. Dhruv Maharaj, when he was a small child, he was very rebellious against his mother. And because of that thought process, he was not a devotee. But Lord Vishnu saw that he came in a rebellious position with a revengeful attitude towards his mother. So he forecasted, although he was not a devotee, but because he was tortured by his stepmother, to take that revenge, to avenge that revenge, Lord Vishnu told that your stepmother, your Uttam will die by the Yaksha, and your stepmother will also die by being bitten by a snake. So this is, bhakti is so grave. Even if one is not practiced bhakti now, but Dhruv Maharaj was not a devotee that time, but he became pure devotee over a period of time. So those people who are in such a precarious condition where they may not be standing in front from point of view of worldly principles very strictly right now, but like Bil Mangal Thakur, something may happen with them and they become pure devotees. Now what will happen to us? So what is the best policy? Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Manena Manadena Spirtane Adari. We should not be neo and allow ourselves to be tortured, exploited. At the same time, we can just be concerned with our own practice of bhakti without trying to bring the whole thing into chat or kind of discussion and trying to speak ill about a person. We don't know what will happen. Okay, so bhakti is like a razor's edge. Therefore, you have to practice bhakti and under guidance. So with these words, I'll try to conclude. So hope we'll try to all of you will try to write exam nicely, and if possible, might be we meet for a further another unit after this unit in a Bhakti Shastri. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Thank you very much. We're very, very grateful. Very.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.